oil barrels delivery to Block Gamma in Chernokamensk. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of SnowRunner here at Opafed Gaming. I am the Opafed. We are just leaving the garage in Chernokamensk in our Avenhorn A15, which we're going to try and push to the limits again a little bit as we're comparing him to the Plaid 450 and the Kenworth 963. An ongoing battle. I don't like to put the three trucks or two trucks that you try to compare to see which one's better side by side and then see which one will go through the mud the fastest or the furthest. That isn't, to me, some people find value in that. I want to use the truck in a job, in a task, and deliver some cargo and see how one performs over the other, because not all trucks are created equal. Some of them got bigger cargo beds and some can have cranes and some can't, and some have chains and some don't. And when you're driving in Amur, which is where we are, then chains is a necessity. You really need a set of chains, and the Avenhorn has those. Now the Avenhorn also has the decent amount of fuel, which really, it doesn't matter what truck you're driving, shouldn't really be an issue, because if you don't have a big enough fuel tank, you could always go around and put some fuel trailers out, or have emergency vehicles in specific spots on the main routes. There's a lot of different things you can do. So fuel, I find, is not my biggest issue. What I like is, and this is just a personal preference, it doesn't mean it's better or not better, because whichever truck is better is up to the person driving it, really. But in my opinion, I prefer to have a crane on the back so that if something happens, you lose some of your cargo because you're sideways and you roll or whatever, you can always pick stuff up with it. Now with the Avenhorn, you can't do that. You've got two cargo slots, you put two pallets of whatever. Today it's going to be oil barrels on there, and that's all you got. With the Plaid, same thing. You got a bed with two cargo slots, but you've got a crane, and you can, in all actuality, put two more pallets of oil barrels on top of the ones on the bottom. So that's the difference. That's one of the major differences. But if you have a task like we have today, where we only need to move two pallets of oil barrels, the Plaid really has no advantage over the Avenhorn, because you only need two cargo slots. So it's up to the individual that, to see which one you prefer to drive. Now I like the Avenhorn. I really like the Avenhorn because it's got lots of power, just like the other trucks. But I like the dualies on the back. It gives the truck a little bit of a wider stance and is a little bit more stable on the road. And I really like that. And it feels through when you're driving it. It comes through. You can just, it's like you can feel it through the controller. Now as we come along here, we've been through this section quite a few times, and if you've been watching my videos, you'd know that. We always go around this pole to the right hand side, because on the left hand side that mud pit is just too deep and too big. And for that matter, it doesn't matter what truck you use, you go through there, you're going to get stuck, and it's going to take you a little bit to get through. Other than going this way, all three trucks have had no problems getting through here. More than enough power, even the Kenworth without the chains, because we're not dealing with a lot of snow issues on this particular journey. So the Kenworth could do this as well. Very capable trucks. Now, one difference is going to be when we get to the fuel processing plant. The way you got to go in is very small and short. It's very limited. Now, the previous video I'd done to this, I delivered two medium pipes with the Western Star twin steer. That's a long truck. And I had a difficult time getting in there. It's really tight, and it'll work much better with this one. Well, we are not going to have any choice, because the last delivery that we got to do is a large pipe. A large pipe, as you might know, is a 4 cargo slaughter. So we're going to have to use the twin steer for that again, because it's highly unlikely that we can pull the trailer in there and get around in there. That's how tight the trip is. But you'll see that when we get there. In the meantime, we're crawling up this ice road with the Avenhorn, and we did it with the Plaid, absolutely no trouble at all because we got chains on. And the Kenworth, you could always run it in the snow on the edge if you did have problems. So not too much of a problem with that. And like I said, it's a very enjoyable vehicle to drive. Now, I normally run it in the high range of the low gear, but it'll only allow you to go a certain speed. Now, I've been practicing a little bit, not always as well, while I'm driving to shift it into automatic when I'm just driving on straight road. And I'll be doing that a little bit later. I didn't have the nerve to do it here just yet. But you can, right now, I could actually shift it into automatic and it would still use very little fuel and you could go a little bit faster. And then once you get to a muddy area or a snow area, you could just gear down to the high range of the low gear and still have a decent speed where your vehicle, where the Avenhorn won't be downshifting all the time for you, which is a real pain in the butt. When you're driving along and he starts moving, he shifts up and then he right away shifts back down again. It's just a pain. And that is the main reason why I started driving it in the high range of the low gear. Plus the speed that you get to go at is still fairly decent, so not too much of an issue, but you might as well utilize every little bit of advantage that you can when you're driving a vehicle, any vehicle really. So we're going to turn right here. We got to go up the road through a little bit of muddy area and a little bit of a mud road beyond. Well, first a little ice road, then a mud road, and then we're going to get up to the warehouse. It's a different warehouse than where we got the twin sets of pipes, small pipes from. So, because they didn't have the oil barrels that we needed. Wow, I'm having a hard time talking today. Didn't have the oil barrels that we needed, so they are up here. Now, here again too, I always go a little bit to the left here because if you go through the middle, it's really muddy and underneath that water. And you get sucked into the mud and you have a hard time getting out. Sometimes you even have to winch yourself out. But we didn't have to do that. If you go a little bit to the side, you always in SnowRunner, you have to think outside the box. Whatever looks like normal and the best route, don't take it because it's full of pitfalls. Usually the best route, or the best route is the longer route and the one that looks a little bit more, a little bit tougher than the route that's presented to you. Because the one that's presented is usually the one that has the pitfalls, right? So as we're coming up here, this is a little bit of a mud road. And there again too, if you drive in the trenches, the tracks where everybody else is driven, you end up going quite a bit slower. So if you move it over a little bit and you have your one set of wheels drive on that middle ridge, it's a little hard to keep it there, but you get better traction and you can go a little faster. So it does make a difference where you drive. I mean, it affects the vehicle that you're running over this stuff, right? So try and keep it a little bit over to the side so you don't have to drive through the tire grooves that everybody else has dug deep holes in the road with. And up ahead we have a logging trailer, the rear end of a long logs, and somebody, I don't know who, somebody's left that out partially on the road. Okay. And when I first started playing this game, you know, when I finished a map, or even when I was doing each individual task, I would always return all the trailers to the garage, the trailer store. I did that because I needed the money to buy the next vehicle I wanted to buy, right? And there wasn't a lot of money available in the beginning of the game. Now, however, money is not much of an issue, so if I do use a trailer, I use it, and then when I finish whatever task I'm doing, I usually just leave it there. And then that way, a lot of times, throughout the map and the gameplay, some of these trailers are used again on different tasks because they happen to be right where I was when I needed one at a certain point. Anyhow, coming up the hill here, the warehouse is to the right hand side, and another real pro, not a big deal, but another pro from for a vehicle such as the Avenhorn with the short wheelbase. When you come into the warehouse parking lot, you can make it in one turn. Now with the Kenworth, every time you come in here, you have to go back and forth because you cannot make the turn in one shot because of the whatever that metal monstrosity train trailer loader or whatever that is. See, but with the Avenhorn, you can turn right in. And not a big deal, but it is a pro. So as we're coming along here, we're going to dump those 2 pallets of oil barrels in the back, and we're going to see. Now it shouldn't make a difference with the weight. The weight, as a matter of fact, I find that when you're driving this particular truck and you put a little bit of weight on it, he feels even more steady on the ground, more steady on the road with more traction. He feels really good to drive. So that part is, you know, the weight is not an issue. Being on the ice road's not an issue. So this is one fine truck if you need chains and you need only 2 cargo slots, then you can use this truck. Because why would you use the Kenworth to deliver 2 pallets of oil barrels when you got a 3-pallet flat deck and no chains and a long wheelbase to try and get into the block gamma part? I mean, it just wouldn't make any sense when this truck will do the same thing and you'll have an easier time delivering it. Anyhow, that's my thoughts on it. You know, it's an opinion. Some people love driving other trucks. Some people love driving a different truck for every task, and they will go through the procedure of getting stuck or trying to get around things, and they find it a challenge, and they like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. You could play this game whichever way you want to play it. The only thing that I would suggest that you should never do, which I used to do, is go too fast. This game is meant to be played easy and slow. It is a puzzly game of trying to find out where your cargo is, where you got to bring it to, and sometimes how you got to manufacture your cargo. Speed is not one of the main issues in this game, and you shouldn't be playing it to try and go as fast as possible. But I used to try and go faster and faster with my truck because I just wanted to get the job done. And that's not, you know, then it starts to take away from the fun. And I found that when I slow down, it's just like in racing games too. You slow down a little bit, you get better control. Better control equals better finishes, which equals more fun. And the bottom line really is, are we having fun? And boy, I tell you, this game really, really delivers. And this particular truck, there again, my opinion, take it for what it's worth, this truck delivers in the fun department. The fun factor rating with driving some of these trucks, and the Plaid too, and the Kenworth, they're a lot of fun to drive. When you got great graphics, great gameplay, it's just great. Now I just wish that the Opafet would smarten up and turn the headlights on a little bit earlier, but he still hasn't. I don't normally drive at night, and I don't like to drive at night because I think it takes away from the game. There again, and just another opinion. You know, I think the game is so beautiful. I love the graphics, and I like to be able to see that. So I usually like driving during the daytime. But it's getting dusky, and we're just gonna keep on going. Now, as you noticed, I shifted into automatic, managed to get her in there nice and smooth. And just before we hit the mud here, we're going to go back into high range of the low gear. Because it has a little bit better pulling power, and it keeps it nice and steady, and the truck doesn't keep shifting up and down, up and down. And it keeps the vehicle going at an even speed if you press the accelerator at even pressure, of course. So as we're coming through the mud here, we only got a little ways to go to get to the end of the road when we're going to turn a right, and then we're on our way to the fuel processing plant. Now this is one more contract, one more task, I should say, of the Amur Petroleum Company contract, the section block gamma part. We've done block alpha and block beta. And we've got the oil barrels to deliver, the medium pipes and a large pipe. Soon we'll be done. And when we're finished this contract, then we're going to go back to Cosmodrome for the liftoff of the assembled rocket. And hope you'll join us for that. That should be a good one. I think it's going to be an awesome show. Hopefully. And we'll see what happens when we get there. Now as we're climbing the hill here, there's a few boulders around, but like the other trucks, boulders are not really a problem unless you, of course, hit really big ones. But the little ones, the ones lying on the road, the Plaid, the Avenhorn, and the Kenworth just kind of shrug their shoulders at it, and they run right through them, over top of them, whatever. You just got to be careful when you're driving over top of them that you're not near the edge of a road where you could, if you hit the rock too hard and you bounce off the rock, you slide over to the left or to the right, and you slide off the road. You got to be a little careful with that. And that's, there again, that's where if you go slow and it does bounce a little bit, then you can always catch it in time and stop it before you get a complete disaster, which we've experienced already more than once, but we don't want to talk about that. Now as you look ahead, you can see the fuel processing plant. Now it's getting pretty dark. It's going to be dark in there, so I think maybe we should turn those headlights on there, big fella, and get us some light so we can see where we're going. Coming down the hill here, over top of these cement slabs, he finally decides to turn on the headlights. And it does look cool when you turn on the headlights. I must admit, it looks pretty awesome. Now, every time when you leave the map or shut the game down, there are wooden barricades inside the block gamma that you've got to crash through, not at high speed. You got to just kind of push them over, and the wooden crates. And every time you leave, it resets itself and it back up. So every time we gotta go and push through them. And you just take your time. Like I said, now we get to see with the short wheelbase how much easier it is to go through here with the Avenhorn. If you've watched my delivery with a twin steer, then you would know how much more difficult it was. So, if not, stick around, and we're going to have the large pipe delivery soon enough, and that'll be with the twin steer too. That's going to be an adventure all itself, I'll tell you. Anyhow, we really enjoyed this one. It was a lot of fun delivering these oil barrels, and I hope you got some tips and tricks out of it, and hope you stick around for the large pipe delivery in one of our upcoming videos. Until then, you've been running through the snow and over the ice delivering oil barrels in an Avenhorn A15 to the block gamma with me, the Opafet.